Uh, Hi, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock on December 2nd, 2022, and I call the Park and Recreation Commission meeting to order. Okay, let's start with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Kamarapan,
Here?
Commissioner Stanek,
Here on December 1st.
First.
Oh, December. Yes, thank you for reminding.
Just clarifying.
and Chair Shu.
Here.
All right. And we do have a quorum with Jess, Vice Chair Begor, and Commissioner Swamy absent.
Okay, thanks everyone. And the first item is review the November 17th Parks and Recreation Commission special meeting minutes. So did anyone have any comments for that?
So we will have to postpone this issue due to not having a quorum for approval.
Okay, so we are going to just postpone this item. But I have one comment for the Lawrence Meeting Park. So in the meeting, I remember I asked about the location of the restroom because in the survey, a lot of people concerned about the restroom. And in our commission meeting, it's confirmed there will be a restroom. But it turned out, actually, it's not located in the new park, but in the Barnhart Sterling Park. Yeah,
So-
I just...
It hasn't been decided yet, but you can definitely email CIP if you have any more questions about it.
Oh, so I just want to put the discussion in the meeting minutes so people may know this item.
Okay, go ahead and email Jess after the meeting.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, we postponed the first item, and now it's oral communication part for items not on today's agenda. And we encourage community members to speak. But looks like, oh, it's December. Now, not so many important agenda items. So yeah, no community members online. Okay, so next is a written communication. Is there any written communication we got? Anyone can report? If no, okay, let's start the new business. Agenda item 2, suggestions for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 capital improvement program.
Okay, so with this item, what we're doing is we're just asking for very easy feedback. It's nothing like the work program where we go into full details on things that we want. I do want to remind everybody, as if you read the staff report, a CIP project is something that really restores or prolongs the life of something, property, adapting property, making newer, different uses. It's typically something that needs outside consultants or something that is more than $60,000. So when we're thinking about capital improvement projects, these aren't little things. These aren't, we just want to add a small something to a park. But I will also let you know that currently this commission has the Memorial Park Project, the Lawrence Mitty Park Project, the Jollyman All-Inclusive Area and Adult Assistive Restroom Project. The annual playground replacement is a CIP. The Blackberry Farm pool improvements is a CIP. The citywide satellite community gardens, the ones we're going to be putting at Wilson and possibly other places, is a CIP. The full-size basketball court that's going out at Wilson and possibly other parks is a CIP. Park amenity improvements is a CIP project. And then there's 2 projects that right now are only on hold due to the fact that there's been some staffing flux in the CIP department, but they are still projects that will be done when there's availability. And that's the Memorial Park Amphitheater improvements and the Quinlan multi-site sustainable infrastructure upgrade improvements. So with that being said, I want everyone to remember that almost all of those are multi-year projects that are not going to be done like that. So when we're giving ideas, we are looking at ideas for the next 5 years. We're not just looking for like next year. And we're really looking for something that is either a safety concern or an issue that really needs to be addressed. Because obviously at this point, our CAP team is only about 4 or 5 project managers. And I just read 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 projects. And that's only us. That doesn't include the bike ped projects. That doesn't include every other CAP side of things, sidewalks, all the other infrastructure things. So I just kind of want to lay that out there, but we do definitely still want to hear from you. And I will take any ideas you have back to our CAP team so that they can vet any of your ideas. Mina, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you for the information. Anyone had some clarification question, please raise your hand. Commissioner Kumarpan? Oh, you...
Yeah, no, sorry, like I raised the hand, but I didn't see it on it. It's coming and going. I don't know where it is. So, but I did raise hand, so thank you.
Okay.
The clarification question. So a couple of them. So thanks, Rachel. So I think I see that there is a staff limits, and that's one of them. And then you provided another point, which is 60,000 plus. So my question, 2 questions. The first question is any of these projects, what you listed out, 10 or 11, are they falling under that above 60,000? That's one. Or is it falling under, since it's a multi-year, it will automatically be a CIP? Because even though it doesn't fall into 60,000, if it is multi-year, will that become a CIP project or need an external consultant?
So everything that I just read, they're all CIP projects, mostly because most of them are going to need some kind of outside consultants, but also because things like our annual playground replacement, that was 300,000 a year. So that's way over the 60,000. So yeah, the pricing and the fact that a lot of them need outside consultants make them CIP projects.
Got it. And the second question is, out of these projects, I know we did, as all commissioners, sit together for last year, and then we put prioritization and stuff. So do we still have that? If I have to do, if CAP can accommodate only one, do we have that list so that we can review it? Because I forgot exactly what the priorities are when we discussed about it. Do we have that still, the priority, all of those data, right? So that we can take a look at it. I don't know, today or whenever it is, do we have that?
So we've kept them in basically the priority that you guys had originally. The hard part has been with things like the annual playground replacement. Like Creekside took way longer than it should have. COVID really threw a wrench in anything being delivered on time. So there are some timing constraints. There are some staffing constraints, but we are still trying to do them the way that we had talked about in that meeting. Obviously, Memorial, Lawrence, and Jollyman are the 3 that they're rising to the top, right? They're work program items and CIP problem items. So they're really prioritized at the very top. But the other ones are still happening. The basketball court and the satellite community gardens, those are both at a phase where I believe they're out for bid. So again, things are moving forward. They're just unfortunately moving slower than in a normal time.
Got it. No, totally understandable. And the last question before I let other commissioners go is that, is there a possibility, given that the CAP staffing and other constraints and all of them, is a possibility we can revisit those prioritized product and projects to see that is there anything can be shrink or like can be made into phased approach, or which can be absorbed by Park and Rec team or others, not necessarily to go to CAP? Is that
once they're already designated a CIP project, they really stay as a CIP project.
I see.
There's other things that we're doing that could be possible.
I see. Okay, that's all the questions I have now. So thank you.
Commissioner Stanek.
Thank you. So when we talk about the park amenities, that's a big budget that's going to be a piece here and a piece there and a piece somewhere else, right? So it's not just in one place. So how would we, like, I know we're probably, as we're going forward and we're having more dog trials and we expect them to be successful, that we are going to want to do some improvements once those hopefully become permanent. And so how would we characterize those? I mean, it's hard to say. If we aggregate them all together, it may be more than $60,000 if we want to put a little barrier or a picket fence somewhere to keep the dogs out the street, or benches and other things. So I guess I'd like to start, I don't want to mix operational costs with CIP, but I want to make sure that is front of mind as we're looking at our budget.
Yeah, I think, most of what I talked about with the DOLA community group was trying to get the trials started and get them going before we start picking out amenities for each place. But I think what may happen is if the trials move as fast as they could, if they go well, then there is a possibility it could become a work program item. And it's, amenities for the dog parks, and there's a budget attached to it. And then we work through it that way. But again, like I said, when we were all talking, they really just wanted the trials to start, and they were very happy to get through those before we played the amenity game. But yes, we know amenities are
right.
No,
I completely understand that, but we're trying to take a longer term view here, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to get ahead of us, but if we're looking ahead, I do want to just make sure that people are aware that amenities for those parks will be needed and wanted.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I don't necessarily foresee them being a CIP, though. I'm hoping they don't hit quite that level. But we'll see.
Depends how much wood is at the time, right? Hopefully it comes down in price.
It's true.
Okay.
I see Commissioner Kumaran have more questions.
Yeah, one more question. Since it's dull, I cannot stop my excitement there. So thanks, Commissioner Stanek. So Rachel, I think you and I were in general exchanging some emails, and thanks for the update on one of the requests DOLA folks asked. So I'm trying to, again, it's a question on if such request, for example, I know there is one for the bench on the side, and the other one is the water on the side, because otherwise they have to go to the extreme, and you clarified it. But now, if that request comes back on this, I don't know whether the bench will not go to CAP, but the water line might go to CAP. I'm just trying to get a clarification on how big that would be if I have to lay the water line. So can you clarify, please? Yeah,
so that would be something that we would definitely have to look at how much it's going to cost to lay a pipe that would actually take water over to the DOLA area. And then the cost of that and whether or not we would have to have outside consultants do it would basically decide for us whether it would be a CIP project or an internal project.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Stanek, further questions?
Thank you. Yes, I did have one more. So you mentioned the Glassberry Farm pool improvement, but you didn't mention the golf course. And is that just because it's not specifically a park? But I mean, we're probably going to be doing something with the golf course one way or another. So I'm imagining that that's a CIP.
Yeah, that one's just on hold right now because we have no idea what council's going to decide. But yes, one way or another, there will be a project there.
There will be a project there. And so to the extent that we do have a project there, I think we want to be looking at, I'm guessing that there's going to be an EIR that's going to be required with that.
Oh, I'm sure depending on what happens that there's going to have to be quite a few of those kinds of studies before anything can go forward.
And included in that, I'd just like to make the comment that hopefully we can rectify what we didn't do when we did the trail, and which got us into the situation where we're limited to the 100 days, that we can do an EIR to review the traffic and all of that. And so I want to make sure that scope, whatever it is, would include an EIR to do that.
Yeah, I think that's on everyone's radar. So thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so if there's no more clarification question, yeah, we start about the discussion about this agenda item. Looks like no community members attended this meeting. So yeah, if any commissioner have any comments about this agenda item, you can continue. No. Okay, Commissioner Kumarapan.
Yeah, so maybe now I think it's time. So I like to understand. So the priority, Rich, I don't know whether it is a time to talk about those priorities, or do you think that it will be in the next meeting or whatnot? So how do we know that out of those 10, 11 listed, at least from our perspective, even though there are in progress, many of them are, you said it's halfway through, but it's making slow. Sometimes we may make a call that, you know what, instead of doing it slowly for next 3-4 years, maybe we have to take a pass on something, whereas we might focus that effort, the staff timing, and onto something else, kind of, right? So do we have any such way to prioritize again? Is there an opportunity, or no, is it all way beyond stopping or passing, and so we need to go? So I'd like to understand the state of the project.
So most of them are beyond that process. However, really with the CIP projects, once they've been put in and we've kind of done our prioritizing, it's really up to the CIP team and their ability and knowledge to decide what's going to move forward, what might have to take a break. However, if we were to do something like actually put something on a major hold or defund something, we would come back to you guys. But if it's just like this has to wait until a different project's over, then we would just keep going with it because we know it's still going to get done. So any major changes to what you may have already talked about, we would bring back. But anything else would just keep moving forward at the pace we basically have. And like I said, most of them are still moving forward. Now, some of them that are different things. So like park amenity improvements, I mean, you guys already did a huge job with that, but we still probably, once we get to the next level, need to come back and say, hey, this is what we talked about. Are we all still on the same page? And then of course, annual playground replacement, like we did do 2 different parks that we talked about. And so we'll keep going with that. But as soon as we get to having to choose new parks again, we'll have to come back to you, just like we did before. So there are certain projects that once the first one's done, we'll come back to you and talk again.
I see.
But projects where you've done like the whole, we want it to happen now, like the basketball court, it's going to keep moving forward. It's basically, in a space where if we stopped it now, it wouldn't be smart.
Agree. Okay. And maybe one quick follow-up question. I don't know, it's the all-inclusive part. We talked about it last meeting or the before one. So obviously that falls under CIP, I believe, on it, such a big one. But what priority are? Is it the project managers are still there? Because I know the community wants it. We want to prioritize. Is it still going to happen, or it is going to slow down as well?
No, that one still has the same calendar that you saw at the last meeting. They had kind of shown when they're going to do everything. That hasn't changed.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. Commissioner Stanek, yeah, you can start.
Okay, thanks. And just one other thing, again, I think we can incorporate it into our operating budgets or our park amenities, and that's, I don't want us to lose sight of incorporating Labyrinth into our parks as we're doing our upgrades to them. So I just want to put that in there. Again, I don't expect a particular Labyrinth to be big enough to be a CIP, but when we're doing other things, make sure that we're considering what we can do to make that happen.
Agreed.
Okay, yeah, thank you for all the information and all the suggestions. If there's no further discussion, yeah, we can close this item and go to the next one. The next one is about the community funding. So yeah, we are going to update the community funding grant program policy.
Yes, so as many of you know, and of course it was in the staff report, there was a subcommittee of City Council to go over the community funding policy, and City Council invited your chair and vice chair to be a part of that. And they did make a couple of changes, and so I'll go ahead and share the staff report just so you guys can kind of follow along with what I'm going to be saying. Oh, right here. But basically, currently, the eligibility is 501c, not 501c3. So they did change that, which will help with the question about schools and other groups that we aren't always sure about. So staff will make sure that each organization is definitely a 501c3. We have also added a question asking whether or not they have an endowment fund. And if they do, we will need to check and make sure that they're not going to use that money by just pouring it into the endowment fund. And that has to do with the fact that they could basically just put it in the fund and then use it for something besides what they applied for. And then for evaluation criteria, we did remove the cost information. Basically, that was something that was pretty much confusing to most people anyway, how much it costs for non-residents versus residents. And a lot of times it didn't really matter because it's not supposed to cost at all. So basically they turned it to, it shouldn't cost at all. It can't have a fee to it. So we removed that. And then we just changed the wording to, it just used to say lack of duplication. And now it's lack of duplication in Cupertino, just to help kind of make it clearer. For the restrictions and guidelines, we did remove the proceeds from the funded activity may only be used for the conducted activity, because again, very confusing and not really something that was easy to go back and check. I mean, yeah. So that was removed to make it a little easier. They did add that if any festivals are currently receiving funding through the festival fee waiver policy, they cannot apply for more funding through community funding for the same festival. Now, if they're applying for a different program, that's fine. But somebody like, let's say, well, I don't want to pick on anybody, but let's say one of our festivals basically is getting all their fees waived. They can't come into community funding and ask for more money toward that same festival. Yeah, so this is where basically we're confirming that admission or participation is free. So that will knock out some people very easily also. It helps though on the application side too, so that people aren't just applying that do have fees. They know from the beginning that's not something we're going to fund. And then on the evaluation form, we did replace the alignment with city missions and values to alignments with our 12 general plan principles. They do not have to align with all 12, but they need to fall under at least one. And then the community need, we made the max points 15 and the alignment with the general plan principles 20. It basically used to be flipped. Community need was 20 and aligning with missions and values was 15. So we just flopped those two. And council approved it. And so we will be moving forward with the new policy. Our management analyst, Jacinta, will be the one running the program this year. I will be helping her very closely, but she will be the one presenting to you guys and working with the organizations. So we're updating the website, the policy, and all the information so that we can still go live on January 1st. Mina, you're on mute. Mina, you're muted.
Muted.
Oh, thank you for your update. And I remember those long meetings, and thank you for summarize them and make it clean and organized.
No problem.
And Commissioner Kumaran has some clarification question.
Yeah, I know this is all done approved, so I totally understand. But I do have, because I was not part of any of those discussions. When you say that it should be free, so that means any non-profit organization comes and asks for funding, if they're charging students, I know that some other projects came in that they charge $10 or $15 or whatever. So looks like they will become ineligible. Is that right?
Correct.
They should not charge any of the service. The service should be completely free.
Yeah,
Period.
they cannot charge the participants at all.
Wow. Okay. No, that helps majority, but you're right. It might make many people fall out because that's the biggest one because people do qualify. Okay. And then the second one looks like you already answered. So this is going in right now live with the current one. Whenever it is going in January for this year, all of them will be applicable, and then it'll go. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. Good. Some more clarity on it. Understandable. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. So for the free of charge, so that means only for that event or program, not the whole organization. And
No.
I remember.
Yeah, just what they're applying for the money for.
Yeah, and in the previous version, there's also one item talking about even if it charge, if the commissioners decided it can be qualified, it can still be qualified. A lot of complicated rules, so we just make it simple. And Commissioner Stanek has a question.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess I wanted to hear from the chair about the conversations, and were there other suggestions that you had for the council subcommittee that you discussed that maybe didn't get put in, or were there other ideas that were considered?
So which specific thing you are talking about? I think this summary is. Yeah.
So, okay, yeah. So I was wondering, I know that the council members had their ideas and they said they came to the chair and the vice chair, and I was wondering what the input was from yourself and the vice chair on the suggestions that the council put forward. Were there any changes? Did you have any additions, or was it basically what they put forward is the way that you agreed with everything they did and there were no additions or deletions from what they suggested?
Oh, yeah, actually there were some long meetings. Yeah, people just exchange ideas, and for the new rules or wording, and everyone just discuss and share our ideas. And we did ask the council, because in the past looks like the expectation of council and the voting result looks different, but it turned out, we just want to use the old sample, use a new rule to apply to the old sample, and try to make sure we won't give those things that doesn't align with council's expectation. We won't give them high score. Yeah, just like the 501c, that case. Yeah, in the past it's not clear. So I think some organizations they are 501c6 or something, but now, or maybe we talk about like if some like church or some other organization is that qualified. Yeah, we did some research about those. And another thing is about how to align with the council's expectation. We use the general plan thing. Yeah, just hope to make things clear.
Okay, so I guess the question I have then with respect to eligibility, it seemed like in the past staff would put together their evaluation, but it was really up to the commission to decide if they were eligible. Is staff now going to be the entity that will determine eligibility before it comes to us?
So staff will still go through and make sure that they meet these eligibility requirements, and we'll do what we've done before where we put like eligible, not eligible, and pending. But I do not feel there's going to be as many situations where it's pending. But we still want you guys to see everything and be able to have a conversation about it. However, there's not as much flexibility in the eligibility items at this time. So there won't be as much like, hey, we think these people actually should be eligible, because it's much more black and white.
Okay, I think another place where it was difficult was in operating costs or administrative costs. And sometimes their administrators are the ones who are actually doing the program. So that was another place that I think we had difficulty understanding what was administrative costs versus operating costs. So that was always a challenge.
I think the biggest
I don't have any other questions.
I think the biggest thing to try to do for all of us is, I agree with you completely that there's certain things like that that are a little harder. And for us, administrative costs would be things that are basically keeping the company running, not keeping that specific event or program running. But if it's not clear, my hope would be that all the commissioners have enough time, and Jess and I will do our best to make sure you have enough time to really go through the applications and write down your questions. That is why, we made 2 meetings so that in March, you guys can really do what you can to understand exactly whether or not they fit into all of those things. So thank you for bringing that up, Carol.
I did want to understand a little bit. There were the previous grants, you had categorized them into categories of art and education and other. Are those categories we're supposed to use, or?
No, that was really just kind of. Yeah, it was just a question from a council member that wanted to kind of know what had been done in the past.
Okay. Yeah, because one of my questions was why is the Parks and Rec Commission evaluating requests for grants for art projects? And why wouldn't that be on the arts and culture? If we want to give money to art programs, I think they are in a much better position to evaluate that, but it's all kind of lumped in one place. So, that's the kind of feedback I guess I would have hoped we could give back to council, but it's kind of, we are where we are, and maybe we can, still modify it. We do have a new council, and we'll see what they really want to do with this, but this is going to be coming up quickly. Council's got a lot on their plate, and I don't think this is going to be that high on their list, considering trying to get the housing element done. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, and thank you for all the information exchange. And Commissioner Kumarapet?
Yeah, one other question is, I know when you all, Chair, you and Vice Chair discussed on it, I think all these policies are clear, but when we make a decision or ranking and say that this is what we recommend to allocate to these organizations, we give a list, but still council make a decision to fund to them or even to beyond whatnot. So is that anything was discussed? I know we had some contention. I want to say for the right reason and say, hey, we wanted to give it to these, but I think because we put a lot of time in prioritizing it, then the council got a free will to allocate to others too. So is there anything discussed on it, or whatever we do, will it help to narrow down so that whatever the commission recommended, council will take and look at it and say, yep, seems to be good to go, or is narrows down the gap, or I do not know whether those things were discussed.
So we do have the 70 to 90 range still, and council definitely seems to want to stay within that range.
Okay.
So that should help a little bit, but there's also part of the reason some of the eligibility was changed was so that we are choosing the groups that they want to give money to versus don't want to give money to. But within saying that, we obviously have a bit of a different council starting. So again, I think this is just a very fluid program that could change every year for all we know. Just, depending on the council and what their hopes of giving money away is. Okay.
And one last question, just for my own clarification. Last time, if I remember, there is the sister city programs. Also, they applied, and would they be still qualified, or they would fall under the other festivals where they get the fee kind of, because I know sister city programs also get funding from city. That means they will not become eligible in this case. Is that my right assumption or not?
So if, let's say, which Cherry Blossom never applies, but let's say Cherry Blossom gets their fees waived through the festival policy. Sister City, Toyokawa, cannot apply for community funding for Cherry Blossom Festival. They could apply for another program or event that they have.
I see. Okay, if they don't use or they don't get any more dollars from city for any other reason on that particular program, still they're eligible, they can still apply.
Yes, and truthfully, it's pretty specific that it's the festival fee waiver program. It's not anything else.
Okay.
They could still receive funds for other things.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for the clarification. And Commissioner Stanek.
Thank you. I don't know if we're part of discussion now. We've kind of morphed into discussion. Is it okay to be having a discussion versus asking questions at this point? We still don't have any
attendees.
Participants from the public.
Yeah, no
so
problem.
If that's okay with the chair.
Yeah, sure.
I guess, my observation has been that the commission has strived to stay within the policy much more, and where the applicants were given grants that were outside the requirements, that was done by council. And so council was the one that was giving grants to applicants who were charging for their event. There were a couple of those, and a couple other things. So it's really interesting to me that they seem to think, oh, well, the commission needs more guidelines, but it was council that was going outside of the guidelines. And I know that for me personally, that has been a big source of frustration. And one of the things I feel that the changes to the policy do not address was the frustration on the part of the applicants, where they felt removed from the final decision makers, and where we're making the decisions and we're doing our best to evaluate them under the entire program. And we can ask them questions and they can respond to us, and we do our evaluation. We send it over to council, and then council has a whole different set of questions. And the applicants were not given the opportunity to really present and address those questions. And so my concern is that the policy, as it's been amended, really doesn't address the concerns of the applicants. And we got some pretty strongly worded letters from the applicants criticizing the program and the way it was administered last year because of that. So I guess my hope is that with the new council that they will use our recommendations. They will take them more to heart. But I do think that is an issue still with that level of distance between the applicants and the council, because I do understand council may have questions, but I think we should be going to reduce bureaucracy, increase transparency wherever we can. And I'm not sure we got there with the changes to this program yet.
So that was brought up in the meetings. It wasn't really something that fell into a certain place in the policy itself, but it is something staff is looking into in the way that we do all of the different meetings for this, because there are 3 to 5 meetings for community funding every year. So we are trying to work through that because we've seen that same thing. And obviously the organizations go through a lot to go through this program. And so we do understand that. We've seen the commission concerns. We've seen the organization concerns. I can't guarantee anything, but we did bring that up at the meeting and try and talk through that issue.
Yeah, just for full disclosure, when the council was discussing this, I joined that discussion, not as a member of the commission, but speaking for myself, and suggested that they just do the evaluation themselves, because they have different ideas even though we have the matrix. And it seemed like they were the ones that weren't sticking within the matrix guidelines. And I felt like if they actually had to do the evaluation as we had, they would have come much closer to where we ended up. And so I did suggest to them at that time that they just do it. It hasn't come back that way at this point yet, though.
Yeah, and I completely understand, the frustration and the misunderstanding in the past. And I think for this community funding program, actually in last several years, I think the council and our park and the rec commission, we already tried to make improvement every year, because several years ago, this community funding I remember it's decided in council meeting, and there were only 2 meetings. So, and then the council decided to let our park and rec commission to get more chance, listen to the applicants, and have more time work with them and look at the materials. I think everyone just trying to improve the transparency of the whole program, and I think the applicant number increased a lot in last several years, even during the pandemic. And I assume after pandemic, maybe we will have more and more new applicants. And at that time, maybe the policy we can think of now maybe cannot apply for the new situation. So anyway, the council member changed the new situation pop up, like in the past we never expected the school district apply for this program. And I told the council, look at the table. You see, we knew our school district did a lot of good service. We cannot give them low score for a lot of category, but it turned out council turned down their offer. We have to make something very clear. Do not let people have some wrong expectation for this program. And then I think the 501c3 that's a policy. Make things clear. So just like that, maybe next year we'll have some new situation, but I'm glad to see everyone just work together and trying to help our community and make the program more transparent and efficient. And thank you so much for the suggestion. That's really helpful. Thanks.
I had one other comment, and it's just a clerical thing. In the community funding historical funding report, and I think in a couple other places, where it refers to the Monte Vista High School boosters, it refers to the music boosters. And they were not the music boosters, they were the speech boosters. And I think somewhere else it says speech, but here, and I think a couple places, I think we're all so familiar with the music boosters, maybe that it just snuck in there or something. So I think we should just correct those historical things just to make sure we have an accurate reflection of who the money was going to. Thanks, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion on this item? Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's good to hear a lot of your valuable feedback for this program, and I believe in future this program need more improvement every year. Hope people can solve the problem together by working together. Okay, so this is the end of agenda item 3. The next agenda item is consider canceling the January 2023 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. So
I don't know if
director have any.
I don't think it needs much from me. I mean, basically, we cancel January almost every year. It's very early in the month. We don't have a lot to bring to you at that time. February is going to be a little full. However, most of that has to do with the fact that we have to go through the rigmarole of new council or commission members. So, it's not something we could move to January if we wanted to. So, I mean, it's still, of course, up to you guys, but our recommendation is to cancel January. I know there was an email sent, and I do encourage you all to look at the housing as a resident and go through the process that you can as a resident. But I will tell you that's not something that we would be bringing directly to the commission.
Okay.
So in this case, can I make a motion to? Is it the way it goes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion to cancel the January 2023 meeting to be canceled.
I could second that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can start to vote.
All right. Commissioner Kumarapan,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanek,
Yes.
and Chair Shu.
Yes.
Motion passes with 3 yes and 2 absent.
Okay. So the next is monthly update. Let's start with commissioners. Do you have any update to share? Oh, Commissioner Kumarapan.
Yeah, quick one. It has happened just 3 days back, so I just wanted to make sure. This is Director Rachel, so Rachel, I will make sure that I get the emails from them. So one of the board members was my ex-colleague. So she called me. She's on the Little League, Cupertino Little League, I think, for the baseball. And that's how she called and she talked about it. And since as a commissioner, I listened to it. Any community member who talked, I wanted to make sure that I listened to their ask, like the DOLA one. So, and she was talking about the participants, the field usage policy, the charges which we used to do for, I think, $5 per hour, if I remember, used to be. Now it looks like it's a $10 per hour. This year, if I remember correctly, that was the conversation, and it looks like that's adding much more pain to the students or the participants overall, and it just has a very generic conversation and say what to proceed out to really bring it up. That's kind of, but since it happened, so the suggestion was, I told them is that okay, they can share what their concern or what they wanted it and stuff directly with the director, and if they feel that, they can write to me and then I can forward. And I said I can consider they want to discuss a little more and give much more detail. I said sure, I'm happy to listen in what it is, but it'll again go back to the Park and Rec department, and then if it has to be put on agenda at the time, then we will talk about it. So I just had the conversation because they brought this as one of the concerns, glooming kind of a concern, given that the rate is doubled, which equates to, I think, $140 or $150 per person per year, or kind of. So it's some calculation. So I like to listen to it. I said definitely, if there is a concern, we will bring it back. But the field usage policy has gone through so many iterations, and based on that only it was decided. So I didn't have all much details, but I just had that conversation, and I said I will bring it up with the commission. And of course, looks like it's a valid concern. I want to listen to it, and I want to hear their one, and bring that concern, community members' concern, back to the department first, and then we can agendize it, whatnot. But that's one conversation I had with them. So I thought I just want to share it here.
Yeah, just to give you a quick update. So that is something that extensively went through City Council because it's fees. And so City Council determines all of those. So it's not, up to the department, but I'm happy to listen, of course. However, just so you know, that is something that is on the agenda to go early next year back to City Council. So that will be something that, of course, we will keep in touch with all of our sports leagues so that they know when that's going to happen and that they can share their concerns.
Excellent, thank you. Because, again, as every community member has a right to reach out, and they are doing the right way. So that, hey, it's great, initially do okay, but it's painful, it's hurting, and then it may reduce the participation, then it is. So it's important to hear from them, and I said, okay, let's listen, and then I'll bring it back. So that's one update I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if no more other update, our director can share your update.
All right. Well, the first one's kind of exciting. Well, I guess they're all really kind of exciting. But the first one, I got to meet with the DOLA community groups. And so following our fiscal year city work program, we will be starting 2 new DOLA trials. They're going to begin on December 9th. The trials will be at Monte Vista and Linda Vista parks. The signs have come in, so we're going to get those out there. They are morning and afternoon hours. And both trials are going to run at least through March, depending on how, the community input is on those. They are complaint based, so we will not be going out and, watching them, but there is on the signs ways for people to send in any information they may have about them. And then right now we are updating the website and stuff, but you will be able to find more information at cupertino.org/DOLA. It's still Jollyman right now, but we are working on updating that so that all the trials are there. So that's exciting. And then event updates this Friday. You can all come out and freeze with me at tree lighting, 6 p.m. at Quinlan. It's open to everyone. No advanced registration required for that event. We do have a couple of registration required events coming up also. The next Saturday, December 3rd, is our Breakfast with Santa. I believe that may be sold out. It's a wonderful event. We also have the Saturday after that, December 10th, we have our Signing with Santa. That is for deaf and hard of hearing children. It is a wonderful event. That is from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Quinlan Center. And then I believe they might be sold out, or there might be still a couple spaces for our Santa visits that are 15-minute visits to your home, Santa and his elf. So we're doing a great job this year. I'm so glad we've been able to re-offer things, and people seem very excited to come join us and register for these programs. So that is very exciting. And that's all I have.
Yeah, good. The holiday season is coming, and thank you for the staff to prepare a lot of fantastic programs. I'll be there tomorrow to see the tree lighting.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Is that okay? I didn't raise my hand yet. So.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. So, Rachel, so is it the one with the Santa for the hearing impaired students or the people? When is that? What's the date? Sorry,
December 10th, Saturday, December 10th.
Saturday, December 10th. And what time is it? Is it
2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. And is it registration needed for us to come in if needed? Oh,
yes,
I
you
see.
need to register, but that one does still have some spaces.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I forgot update. I think in the email, some Boy Scouts parents, they are asking if our city parks need some and our city the holiday events or other events need like high school, middle school volunteers. And I remember 1 or 2 years ago with other directors, I asked about the same question. But during pandemic, we heard we don't have much opportunities like that. So I'm just wondering, so in the future, maybe after pandemic, will there be more volunteer opportunities for kids living in Cupertino?
We actually use a lot of volunteers now, like our Monster Mash, because we don't have a lot of part-time staff at the moment. Our Monster Mash was 3, I think, volunteer groups that helped with that. So all they really have to do is reach out, and if there's specific events that they can be at, then we can always send that to that coordinator. And if they have space for volunteers, we'll have volunteers helping at the tree lighting. So yeah, volunteer opportunities are out there.
Oh, okay. So who is we should contact for this?
So they can contact me and then I'll forward it on. But the best thing isn't if they just say, do you have volunteer opportunities? It's easier if they say, hey, I'm available for this event and I'd love to volunteer, because then I can definitely direct them to the correct person and we'll know whether we need the volunteers or not.
Oh, so you mean even after the event posted on city website, people can ask that won't be too late.
No. And most of them are on the calendar. We have a lot of volunteers also at Big Bunny Fun Run. That is the one where we need a lot of volunteers.
Oh.
So if there's certain ones that they're interested in, just have them email me. I'd love to work with them to find volunteer opportunities.
Okay. Yeah, and I know actually Cupertino yeah has enough funds for a lot of program, and actually in city San Jose people complained that their park rely on volunteers for some park rely on volunteer for cleanup. If volunteer not there, the park just yeah
Yeah, we don't always
dirty,
need it for those kinds of things, but events, it's always nice to have the extra hands.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much. Okay, so if no other discussion, yeah. Now it's 7.
Oh, Chair Shu, if we could just also make sure that we look at the commissioner attendance for upcoming meetings and events. We do have to pick someone for the mayor's meeting in January.
Yes.
But December, I have Commissioner Stanek down. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer for January? It would be January 11th at 5.
I can make it January.
Okay.
You can, right? The commissioner, the chair.
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay, excellent. Because I'm traveling, so I will be in East Coast. Really enjoying the white Christmas kind. So I'm heading out there for a week. So thank you.
Okay, so I have Chair Shu down for January 11th.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no further tasks, at 7:56, I call the Cupertino Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. And yeah, thank you everyone. And
Thank
enjoy
you.
the holiday.
Thank you. Happy holiday,
everybody.
Yeah. Enjoy. Yeah.
Hope to see you tomorrow.